So activity 1 is taking place in a visual mode of teaching and is the sketching demonstration. So the literacy elements include the fact that students are required to learn, use and correctly spell visual arts specific terminology of increasing complexity related to the sketching self-portraits as they move through the curriculum. The teaching activities include that the teacher will write on the whiteboard vocabulary students need to understand. They will then define and demonstrate use of the vocabulary words realism, line, shape, form, geometric shapes, organic shapes to create their facial portrait. And then the assessment type is that students are assessed by a matching test. They are required to match new visual arts vocabulary to the correct definition. The numeracy elements of Activity 1 include making and interpreting measurements, understanding of dimensions, acknowledging and describing the diverse range of shapes which constitute the human face, identifying how to make a two-dimensional sketch resemble a three-dimensional person. Teaching activities include a teacher sketching on a student on the whiteboard, and measuring with a ruler the symmetrical distances between the eyes and facial proportions. The assessment type is a subsequent performance assessment with a marking rubric which will assess whether they have correct division of facial features, face shape symmetry, appropriate use of measurements and measurement tools. Activity 2 is in tactile mode and students will sketch their own self-portrait. The numeracy elements are the use of numeracy understanding and ability to sketch, envisage, create, translate and understand their artworks, especially understanding of dimensions to evaluate volume and explaining arrangement and progression. Teaching activities include a recent revision by the teacher of the facial proportions to the class. The students are then invited to discuss this content in small groups. The assessment type is a performance assessment of the students' annotated final sketches, and the teacher assesses understanding and application of numeracy principles by marking student sketches on a rubric. The literacy elements of Activity 2 are that students compose creative in their self-portrait sketch and written text in their personal reflection of the class outcomes. They develop their visual knowledge by understanding how visual text form meaning, and they also apply their knowledge of grammatical conventions to formulate the personal reflection. The teaching activities were suggested by Brady and Kennedy that the teacher gives students time to complete their final self-portrait sketch, and the teacher can instruct the students to then write a personal reflection. The assessment type was also suggested by Brady and Kennedy to do a performance assessment of the student's final sketch and the personal reflection recorded in their journal. Work would be assessed according to a marking rubric. So in terms of subject-specific vocab and concepts, the Australian curriculum suggests subject-specific vocab and concepts include visual conventions such as the style, elements, composition, and design principles, the application of a range of artistic practices to communicate, respond, and create, and the audience, those who individually or collectively view, interpret, and engage with artworks intellectually, socially, or emotionally. The literacy learning continuum keywords are present in Activity 2 as they can comprehend the text, navigate and read and view learning area texts, listen and respond to learning area texts, interpret and analyse these texts, compose written, visual and multimodal learning area texts, use language to interact with others, deliver presentations, use knowledge of text structures, cohesion, words and sentence structures. In terms of teaching vocab strategies, there are 3 stages. The pre-active stage, which is selecting important vocab, forming strategies of how to teach them. The interactive phase is contextual hints, exploring the vocabulary and dictionary, independent vocab accumulation, and then there is the reflective phase, which students define words, interpret and relate words and apply them. In terms of the literacy learning continuum, ACARA claims numeracy key abilities include understanding and using numbers in context, estimating and calculating, recognizing and using patterns and relationships, interpreting and applying proportional reasoning, visualizing 2D shapes and 3D objects, interpreting data displays,